John chapter 11. I have to tell you, I was really touched by this chapter and by the message that we have in this chapter. I did not have much to do, really, in preparing the commentary, the speech today, because it flows. It flows so well, and there's so much in it, right? So we've come now to the seventh of the last miracle of Yeshua in the Gospel of John. As this Gospel was written so that we may believe that Jesus is the Christ, it says, the Son of God, and that believing we may have life in His name, as John 20:31 tells us. So this seventh and last miracle reported in the Gospel of John is a most powerful one. One miracle that only God can perform. One that requires the creative ability of God. This miracle is the raising of Lazarus. And its magnitude is proportionate to the fact that it is a last appeal in this gospel to the people of the time. And to those today who have not yet come to a decision concerning Jesus. Here, they are called to consider who Jesus is. It is a miracle that cannot leave one unmoved. It begs for a decision. And it is significant that this miracle is also the last of those three miracles that were performed right in Judea. Right where we find the center of religion in Israel. Listen to what these three are. And notice the mounting degree of importance as each increasingly showed the Messiah's divine power. And at the same time showing the depth of man's condition as he is so far away from God. See how John brings us these three miracles. The first one performed in Judea was that of the important man of 38 years in chapter 5. One that was left to believe that some angel would stir the water of the pool of Bethesda in order for him to be healed. By this time the people were right where Hosea prophesied they will be, when he said that the people were perishing because of a lack of knowledge, and by now they believed other things that kept them further away from God. The teacher of the Word of God were chased away by this time. The second one was that of the healing of the man born blind, if you remember in John 9. Here we are shown the complete spiritual blindness man is under. The absence of the Word brings spiritual blindness. And even though they knew that no one ever performed this miracle, they nevertheless did not believe it either. Blindness was their condition. And the third one is the raising of Lazarus. This shows the condition of man before he comes to Yeshua. Lazarus was dead. Such is the condition of everyone who does not know or recognizes Jesus as Lord. These three miracles, I believe, specifically are chosen to show the condition of the spirituality of man without God. Right in the religious heart of Israel. It shows that man is impotent, blind, and dead. This is the condition of man's religion without Yeshua. Not a nice picture, is it? I can hear many complaining and saying, what a bleak conception of man that is. But how else do you want the reality to be brought to you? Such is what the Bible teaches, and the good news is that Jesus came to erase all these things so that you might be well. This is the message of this gospel. This is so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. This is why this gospel was written. In fact, this last miracle comes right before the beginning of the events of this difficult journey leading to the Messiah's death and resurrection. In the next chapter, we read of the triumphal entry of Jesus into Jerusalem, an entry which began in triumph, but led Yeshua not to a throne, but to the cross. So he came not to put man down, but to raise him up. And this, he did it willingly, so that you might believe. And with this important and so significant message behind the raising of Lazarus, we are also shown that sensitive and affectionate side of the Messiah. as this chapter contains the shorter verse in our English Bibles. And perhaps one of the most powerful one, verse 35, Jesus wept. Two strong words showing a man that had the ability to change the course of history and had the ability to change the world around him, but could not change the mind of the people who were not willing. He would not change them because every individual is so precious to him, and everyone was created in his image, and they could not be forced, that is, into a decision. So he came to die for them, and he wants them to know that. Let's look at the text and see how the Spirit of God brings out this great truth to us today. Let's begin by reading the first 5 verses. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary who anointed the Lord with fragrant oil and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent to him and saying, Lord, behold, he whom you love is sick. And Jesus heard that and said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. These words set the stage for what is about to happen. First, we're given a glimpse of Jesus' social life. He had friends that he deeply loved, friends that provided a welcoming place within Judah, a place I am sure he rested many times after his visits in Jerusalem. And here the home of Lazarus and that of Martha and Miriam, as the Greek has it, represents also that place of rest in the midst of turmoil. Bethany, their village, was only 2 miles from Jerusalem, and these two places, Bethany and Jerusalem, stand in sharp contrast. One was for rest, the other one was a turmoil place. Bethany, which was in the midst of Judah, was a place of rest. And if this passage begins like this, it is to tell us that rest is possible, it is within reach, even when things are in confusion around us. We remember that Jesus did not come to bring peace in the world, did he? But he came to bring peace in our hearts. The world will not change, but we can actually reach that peace ourselves. And so we need a Bethany. It could be our congregation, it could be our home, or any place when our brothers and sisters in the Messiah are with us. Any place where Yeshua is. And so right at the outset, we're introduced to this place and to these 3 friends of Yeshua. And twice, we are told that Jesus loved them. First in verse 3, Lazarus is spoken as the one whom the Lord loves. And verse 5, we are told that Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And the repetition is given because I believe that these 3 individuals are also a type of who we are as believers. And it is this love that brought Yeshua to weep over the death of his beloved friend Lazarus, and also because of the pain that this death caused the family. His weeping is showing the depth of his love for them and for us. Do you remember Isaiah 63:9? In all their affliction, God, it says, is afflicted. Here we can see Yeshua weeping as a fulfillment, so to speak, of this passage. And of the other similar passages, just like one, we can think of Exodus 3:7. Where God looked at the affliction of his people and said, I have heard their cry and I know their sorrow. And even in the book of Judges 10:16, we hear something really wonderful here. We are told that his soul could no longer endure the misery of Israel. Here in John, he weeps for them because he came to die for them, because of his love for them, and because he could not endure their misery. And there is an even deeper truth in the Messiah's weeping. Because here we are speaking of death. And the death of a loved one is a painful reality.